The rejected mother on Telvok. The twin suns of Telvok 9 burned high in the sky, casting long shadows on the crowded streets. People of all kinds, scaly, furred, metal-skinned, walked quickly, ignoring the one figure that stood still. A woman stood near the job board, clutching a small bundle in her arms. Her name was Jara. She was thin, her skin a soft blue, and her eyes looked tired. Her baby, wrapped in old cloth, cried softly. Jara wiped sweat from her forehead and stepped forward. "Please," she said to a merchant. "I can fix machines. I worked in a tech lab before. I just need work and food." The merchant, a tall creature with 6 eyes, looked at her with disgust. "You have a child," he hissed. "You're a distraction. I don't hire mothers." He turned and walked away. Jara moved to another booth, then another, and another. Every time the answer was the same. "No room. Too risky. You're trouble." Jara's stomach growled. Her baby whimpered louder now. The tiny alien girl hadn't eaten since morning. Jara had given her last food crumb to her the night before. She sat on a broken bench near a dusty wall. Her arms ached, her feet were swollen, her eyes filled with tears, but she held them back. She had to stay strong. For her child. Just then, a group of alien teenagers passed by. One of them laughed and tossed a half-eaten food cube at her. "Beggar. Go back to the slave zones." The others laughed. Jara didn't respond. She simply held her baby closer and looked down. But someone else had seen it all. Across the street stood a human. His name was Reed Carson. He wore a dark, dusty jacket, his boots heavy with metal. His face was rough and serious, but his eyes were kind. Reed watched silently. He saw how every person turned away from her, how she stood alone with no one to help. He walked across the street, slowly, and stopped in front of her. Jara looked up, startled. She gripped her child, tighter. "I'm not here to hurt you," Reed said softly. Jara didn't reply. She was too used to cruel strangers. Reed reached into his bag and pulled out a sealed ration bar. "Your kid needs food," he said. "Take it." Jara hesitated, then slowly reached out. Her hands were shaking. "Thank you," she whispered, voice cracked. Reed sat down beside her, ignoring the dirty bench. Aliens passing by stared. Some shook their heads. Others muttered. "She's a single mother. Dangerous past. She was part of the rebellion, they say. Why would a human sit with her?" Reed didn't care. He watched the child slowly chew on the ration bar, making soft, happy sounds. Jara's eyes filled with silent tears. "I have a small shop," Reed finally said. "I fix junk, ships, bots, machines. Not much, but I could use a second pair of hands." Jara's eyes widened. "You want to hire me?" "I said I could use help. Not a charity, but you'll have to work hard." She nodded quickly, still in shock. "I will, I promise anything." Reed stood up. "Then come tomorrow morning, Bay 12 near the scrapyard, bring your kid." He started to walk away, then stopped. "Oh, and don't listen to what people say. I don't care about your past, just do your job right." Jara looked down at her child, sleeping peacefully now. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever given her a chance. And for the first time in many months, Jara felt hope. But as Reed disappeared into the busy crowd, someone else was watching from the shadows, a cloaked figure with glowing red eyes and a strange device in hand. "She's still alive," the figure whispered into a communicator. "And she's with a human." The offer no one else made. The next morning, the sky over Telvok 9 was cloudy, strange for a planet with twin suns. A cool wind blew through the scrapyard fields, carrying the scent of rust and old fuel. Jara stood outside Bay 12, holding her child tight against her chest. Her heart beat fast. She had slept little the night before, unsure if the human's offer was real or just another cruel joke. The old garage door groaned as it opened. Inside stood Reed Carson, covered in grease, goggles on his head, and a tool in his hand. "You showed up," he said without looking at her. Jara stepped in slowly. "I didn't think you'd actually want me here." Reed finally looked at her, expression unreadable. "I said come. I meant it." He pointed to a corner with a small mat and a storage crate. "Put the kid there. She can nap or play. You'll be working on this junk bot." Jara blinked. "This model's ancient." Reed raised an eyebrow. "Can you fix it?" She rolled up her sleeves. "Yes." For the next few hours, Jara worked. Her fingers moved fast, memory kicking in. She rewired circuits, adjusted broken joints, and cleaned ancient dust from gears. The baby slept peacefully nearby. Reed watched, from the side, impressed but silent. Around noon, he handed her water and half a ration bar. "Break." Jara took it gratefully. "Thank you." "I didn't do anything yet," he replied. "You did the work." That evening, Reed closed the garage. Jara got up to leave but paused at the door. "Do I come back tomorrow?" Reed didn't answer right away. Then he nodded. "You fixed something my last two workers gave up on. You're good. So yeah, come back." Jara smiled, just a little. It felt strange on her face. As she walked back into the city, people looked at her differently. A few even stepped aside. Working with a human gave her some strange new respect, or maybe fear. But far above them, on the roof of a nearby building, a pair of glowing red eyes locked onto her. "She's been accepted by the human," the watcher growled into a comm. "The traitor has found protection," a cold voice answered. "We'll make that protection worthless soon." The next day, something unexpected happened. As Jara arrived again at Bay 12, she found a line of aliens outside. Angry, loud, one of them, a long-necked alien with golden robes, shouted, "Reed, you are violating hiring code. That woman is blacklisted." Another yelled, "She worked for the warlord. She carries danger." Reed pushed open the gate and stepped out, wiping oil from his hands. "You're standing outside my shop," he said calmly. "You don't run my choices." "She could bring death to this sector," one alien barked. Reed stepped closer. "Then I'll face it. You done yelling?" The aliens backed off slowly. His stare was hard, unshaken. Jara stood quietly behind the door, clutching her child, heart pounding. No one had ever stood up for her like that. Later that night, Jara cleaned tools in silence. Reed came over and handed her a strange, glowing badge. "What's this?" she asked. "Your ID. Says you work here now." "I had it made." Jara stared at it. Her hands trembled. "I don't know how to repay you," she whispered. Reed shrugged. "Just fix what's broken. That's enough." He walked away. But behind her, a small blinking light flashed on a security cam. Someone had hacked the system. Far across the stars in a dark war chamber, the warlord stared at Jara's image on the screen. "Found you," he snarled. "You and your little mistake." Reed stands up. The next morning, Jara arrived early at Bay 12, but something felt wrong. The air was too quiet. The security gate was already open. And inside, the lights flickered strangely. She stepped in slowly, her child sleeping in a sling, across her chest. "Reed," she called out. No answer. Then she saw them. 3 uniformed alien officials stood inside the shop, speaking in harsh tones. Beside them was Reed, hands behind his back, 2 small glowing cuffs locking his wrists. Jara froze. "You are violating Interspecies Labor Code Section 43B, the lead inspector barked. His voice sounded like grinding metal. "You hired a blacklisted citizen. That is treasonous conduct on Telvok 9. Reed looked at Jara, then back at the officials. Calm, focused. "She's not a criminal," he said. "She's a mechanic, one of the best I've seen." "She is an ex-slave of the warlord," the inspector hissed. "A fugitive. Harboring her is illegal and dangerous." Reed smirked. "So the law favors fear over skill now?" One of the officers struck him in the stomach. Reed grunted but didn't fall. Jara rushed forward. Stop, this is my fault, let him go. The officer raised a scanner. Under law, your presence in this zone can justify permanent exile, or worse. Reed straightened, glaring. You want to exile someone? Start with me. The room fell silent. The inspector turned to him slowly. You would be cast out for her? Reed didn't hesitate. I would. The silence cracked like thunder. Outside the garage, a crowd was forming. Shop owners, traders, even kids. Word had spread. The humans getting arrested for hiring that mother. Inside, Reed's cuffs beeped. His data profile blinked on a holoscreen. Suspended license. Denied access to repair hubs. Loss of trade rights. Jara's heart shattered. Reed had risked everything. For her. She stepped forward, her voice shaking but strong. You think I'm dangerous? She said. I ran from a war. I carried a baby through fire and darkness. I survived. If that makes me a criminal, then what does that make you? The inspector scoffed. Touching speech, but meaningless. Jara lifted her sleeve, showing a burned tattoo, an old slave mark now partly scratched out. I wore this brand. I bled under the warlord's orders, but I escaped. I chose to protect my child instead of kill for him. I'm not the threat. He is. One of the younger officers shifted uncomfortably. The inspector growled. Enough. But before he could speak again, the shop doors burst open. A small floating drone zipped in, broadcasting everything to the public screens across the city. Jara's voice. Reed's sacrifice. The crowd outside gasped as the footage played. People began to whisper she was a slave. She survived him. And the human gave her a job. Within minutes, the crowd swelled. Some shouted in anger at the officials. A fruit vendor threw a crate. She fixed my generator last week. She helped me. An elderly alien woman stepped forward. You punish kindness now? The officers looked around, nervous. The inspector snarled, shut this down, all of it. But Reed raised his voice one last time. You can arrest me, he shouted, but know this. Today the galaxy saw you punish hope. Under pressure, the officials backed away. The cuffs on Reed's wrists clicked open. You'll regret this, the inspector whispered. You made enemies today. Reed looked at him, without fear. Good, let them come. As the officials left, the crowd erupted in cheers. Jara stood still, shocked. Reed turned to her. That was a bit more than I expected. Jara could barely speak. Why would you do this? For me? Reed smiled faintly. Because someone should have done it a long time ago. But far away, in a warship above the atmosphere, a cold voice watched the footage. The warlord's eyes narrowed. Activate retrieval squad. The traitor lives. And now, the human interferes. The hidden past of Jara. That night, a storm rolled over Telvok 9. Thick purple clouds rumbled with lightning. The junkyard echoed with thunder, and rain tapped gently against the metal roof of Bay 12. Inside the small back room, Jara sat on a blanket beside a low heater, her baby curled in her lap. She stared into the dim light, her face still and quiet. But her eyes, they were full of memories. Reed Carson stood nearby, welding a broken drone on the bench. He watched her from the corner of his eye. You haven't said a word since sunset, he said. Jara didn't look up. I shouldn't be here, she finally whispered. I brought danger to your life, to this place, to you. Reed put down his tools. You fixed my entire backup generator today in less than an hour. That saved my business. You belong here. Jara shook her head. No, you don't know what I've done. What I was. Reed sat on an overturned crate, arms resting on his knees. Then tell me, he said. Jara looked down at her child, now asleep, then took a deep breath. I was raised on Valgor, a war world ruled by the warlord. My people were engineers, good ones. He forced us to build weapons, machines of death. I worked in the inner labs. She pulled back her sleeve. The old burn tattoo showed again. Slave ID 21NPG. They branded me when I was 12. Reed stayed silent. I built targeting systems for his orbital bombers, Jara said, voice. I helped make things that killed cities. I had no choice, but that doesn't erase what I did. Her hands trembled. When I became pregnant, everything changed. I didn't even know who the father was. One night I smuggled a data chip out, a key to his fleet command codes. I planned to trade it for escape. Reed leaned forward. Did it work? Jara nodded slowly. Barely. I escaped through a refugee cargo ship. I gave the chip to the rebellion. They destroyed 2 of the warlord's flagships using that data. She looked up, eyes glossy. They called me a hero, then forgot about me. I became just another refugee with a baby. And the warlord, he never forgot. Outside, lightning flashed. A shadow moved in the scrapyard, silent and fast. Inside, Reed frowned. He's looking for you, he said. Jara nodded. He wants his revenge, not just on me, but anyone who helps me. That's why aliens refuse to hire me, they're scared. Reed stood and walked toward the door. Well, I don't scare easy. Just then, a sensor on the wall blinked red. Motion. Detected, the alert said. Unauthorized figure inside perimeter. Reed grabbed his plasma tool and headed out. Jara stood, clutching her child. Wait. Reed. But he was already gone into the night. Outside, the rain poured. Reed scanned. The shadows, who's out here? He shouted. No answer. A sudden flash. A glowing blue dart flew from the darkness, striking the ground beside him. He ducked, rolling behind a crate. 3 dark figures moved among the junk piles, their armor black with green lights. Warlords? Retrieval squad. One of them spoke into a comm. Target location confirmed. Woman and child inside. Eliminate human if he resists. Reed narrowed his eyes. Oh, I'll resist all right. He triggered a hidden trap. 2 old cargo droids burst from the ground and tackled the attackers. Sparks flew. One of the soldiers crashed into a wall, disabled. Reed ran back toward the shop. Inside, Jara had already taken position. She held a repurposed welding tool, wired to overload. Take the baby and run, she told Reed. No, he said firmly. We fight. She looked at him, this strange human who never turned away from her. Why are you doing this? She asked. You don't owe me anything. Reed locked the door. Yeah, I do, he said. Because the galaxy needs people who don't run when it gets hard. Outside, the remaining squad regrouped. Inside, Jara and Reed stood together, ready. And far above Telvok 9, deep in the black void, the warlord stood on the bridge of his warship. Watching. Tomorrow, he growled, I land myself. The human who wouldn't run. The junkyard was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that came before chaos. Inside Bay 12, the lights flickered. Smoke from damaged machines hung low in the air. Reed Carson stood by the locked door, holding a laser, cutter like a sword. Beside him, Jara held her child tight, her other hand gripping a charged welding lance. Outside, the rain fell harder. Somewhere in the shadows, warlords' hunters waited. Their thermal visors glowed red through the fog. Jara whispered, You should leave. They're here for me, not you. Reed didn't move. He wiped rain from his face and said, You're wrong. They're not just here for you. They're here to remind us all what fear feels like. He looked at her with calm eyes. And I don't run from fear. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the junkyard gates. 3 armored enforcers kicked in the door. Smoke bombs rolled across the floor, filling the shop with hissing white gas. Jara coughed, shielding her baby. Reed grabbed a vent cover and slammed it over a fuse box. We shut the lights, let them fight blind. The lights cut out. Darkness. The hunters moved in, but their infrared couldn't read the junk heat properly. Reed had overloaded the system. Jara dropped low, crawling behind a crate. One of the Soldiers walked past. Quietly, she activated her lance and jammed it into his leg. A flash of blue light, and he collapsed. Reed tackled another one into the wall, knocking tools and parts flying. He twisted wires from a plasma battery and shocked the enemy into unconsciousness. But then came the sound they feared most. A ship descending. The building rumbled. Something heavier, bigger, far worse was landing. Jara's face went pale. "That's not just a squad," she whispered. "That's him." The roof shook as a sleek black dropship crushed a cargo tower outside. Its doors hissed open. Long boots stepped out one by one. Soldiers in gold armor stood at attention, and in the center, the warlord. He was massive, almost twice the size of Reed. His eyes glowed with fire beneath a metal mask. Scars covered his arms. His voice was deep and cold. "Jara," he said, "I have waited a long time." Inside, Reed looked at her. "We're not done yet." Jara's hands trembled. "He'll kill us." Reed went to an old hover truck in the back. "Then we give him a surprise." He rewired the truck's core, opened a panel, and looked back. "Strap in. You're driving." Jara blinked. "What?" "You're a better pilot. I'll handle the cannon." Moments later, the rusted hover truck burst through the garage doors, engines roaring. The warlord turned slowly, but not in time. Reed aimed the roof cannon and blasted one of the golden soldiers into the air. Jara swerved hard, dodging plasma. Fleury shouted, "Where are we going?" Reed grinned. "Straight into him." Jara narrowed her eyes. "Hold on." She hit the turbo. The truck jumped over scrap piles and slammed straight into the warlord's armored chest, sending him crashing into a wall. But he got up. Fast. Angry. He leapt onto the truck as it spun out, punching the roof. Reed climbed out and met him head-on, fist to fist, human to monster. Every hit from the warlord was like a hammer. But Reed never fell. He fought harder with each punch, protecting the cabin, protecting Jara and her child. Jara reversed the truck, then yelled, "Now!" Reed dropped, and she fired the truck's last power cell directly at the warlord's chest. Boom! Smoke exploded in all directions. When it cleared, the warlord was gone. Only his mask lay on the ground, cracked. Jara jumped out, baby still crying, in her arms. She ran to Reed, who now knelt, bleeding but breathing. "You're crazy," she whispered. He looked up, barely smiling. "That's what makes me human." But far above, in orbit, cameras had captured everything. The battle, the truck, the human standing against the warlord. And now, the galaxy watched. One mother, one human, one stand. Every screen across the outer rim lit up at once. News feeds, military channels, underground networks, everywhere. A shaky drone, video replayed over and over, a human man standing over the cracked mask of the warlord, beside a single alien mother holding her child. People across the galaxy paused. Is that real? Who is that human? What kind of man would fight the warlord for her? On Telvok 9, smoke still rose from the battle-scarred scrapyard. Jara stood near Reed, who lay against the busted hover truck, his arm bandaged in dirty cloth. He was pale but alive. Her baby clutched her shirt tightly, wide-eyed. "I thought it was over," she whispered. "It's not," Reed said. "He's not dead. That wasn't him running away, that was him planning something worse." Jara looked up. Ships were moving in the sky, more than usual. Patrols, drones, war signals. Reed tapped his comm. "The galaxy saw us. We just made enemies and friends." The next day, things changed fast. Crowds gathered outside Bay 12, silent at first, then cheering. Aliens from every species held up signs, gifts, tools, food. One old alien woman stepped forward and gave Jara a sealed energy pack. "You protected your child," she said. "You are the strongest kind of warrior." Jara didn't know what to say, but not everyone was happy. A message came through on Reed's work screen. It was encrypted, voice only. "You have shamed him," the voice said. "He will not stop. You are now marked by the warlord's wrath code. Reed frowned. Wrath code? Jara nodded slowly. It means he won't just kill us. He'll erase us. And anyone who stands beside us. She looked at the child in her arms and whispered, "No more running." That night, Reed and Jara stood side by side in the heart of the junkyard. Around them, broken drones and scrap ships sparked with life. Jara had been working all day, rebuilding, upgrading, designing traps and shields. Reed looked around in, "Oh, how do you know how to do all this?" Jara met his eyes. "Because I built his war machines once," she said. "Now I'm using that knowledge to destroy them." Suddenly, alarms blared. From orbit, dozens of small ships entered atmosphere. Warlords, elite retaliation force, but this time, Telvok 9 didn't go quiet. Instead, something incredible happened. From the hills beyond the scrapyard, people arrived. Alien farmers with plasma rifles, mechanics with modified bots, old soldiers who hadn't fought in years, parents with children. Behind them, they didn't run. They stood beside Reed and Jara. One young alien girl said, "You gave her a chance, now we give you one." Reed looked at them, eyes wide. This is insane," he said. Jara smiled. "No, this is hope." The first wave of enemy troops landed. Blades shimmered, guns hummed. Jara handed Reed a repurposed power blade. "Ready?" He nodded. Then together, a human, a mother, and a crowd of misfits, they charged. The battle was chaos. Explosions lit the sky. Jara directed defenses like a master commander. Her drones moved perfectly. Her shield walls held. Reed led a squad of scrapbots into melee, cutting through enemy lines. The people of Telvok 9 fought like they had nothing to lose. Because finally, someone had shown them it was worth fighting for. Then the final ship landed. A larger one. The ground cracked beneath it. Out stepped the warlord himself. No mask now, just fury. He raised his massive plasma axe and pointed at Jara. "You," he growled. "Betrayer. I offered you a place among gods." Jara stepped forward. "I chose family over monsters." The warlord charged. But this time, he wasn't fighting a helpless slave. He wasn't facing one human alone. He was up against them both. Jara's blade hummed as she moved with precision. Reed fought by her side, blocking, striking, protecting her back. It was brutal. It was beautiful. It was the stand that would be remembered. The galaxy respawn smoke filled the air. The battlefield was quiet now. Weapons silent. Engines dead. Bodies, both enemy and defender, lay across the scrapyard floor. And in the center stood Jara, her armor cracked, her arms trembling. Beside her, Reed Carson knelt on one knee, blood on his cheek, a busted plasma blade hanging from his hand. His breathing was heavy, but steady. The warlord was gone, not dead, but defeated. Forced to flee in his last ship, leaving his mask behind. The Yar mask now sat on the ground, broken, useless. And the galaxy had seen it all. Across every known system, screens replayed the moment again and again, a single alien mother fighting beside a human, standing together against a monster who ruled by fear. The footage went viral. Children reenacted the scene with toys. Posters went up. Hope fights back. Songs were written about the scrapyard stand. And for the first time in decades, fear changed sides. On Telvok 9, days passed. The people worked together to rebuild Bay 12. Jara opened the doors every morning, greeting aliens of every kind. Her baby, now healthy and smiling, played in the corner while Jara repaired drones and taught others how to build defense tech. She had become something no one expected. A leader, a builder, a symbol. Reed stayed too. He could have returned to Earth, where he'd be called a hero, offered medals, money, glory. But he didn't want that. He wanted to stay where the fight had mattered most. One afternoon, as they rewired a damaged fusion engine together, Jara asked softly, "Why did you stay?" Reed smiled, looking out at the busy yard. "Because I found something here that I didn't have back home." Zhara tilted her head. What? He looked at her. A reason. 1 week later, a council ship landed in Telvok 9's orbit. It was filled with high-ranking galactic leaders, peace envoys, and representatives from neutral systems. They asked to speak with Zhara and Reed. Inside the meeting room, a tall senator stood. You have done what diplomats and soldiers could not, he said. You shook the warlord's grip. Not with power, but with courage. He turned to Zhara. Would you represent us? Lead a new voice? A council of unity, starting here, on Telvok 9? Zhara was silent for a moment. Then she looked down at her child, her hands, her past, and finally, her future. She nodded. Yes, but only if he stands beside me. She pointed to Reed. Reed blinked. Me? Zhara smiled. You didn't just save my life. You changed it. Later, as the two of them walked through the yard under a starry sky, Reed asked, Do you think the galaxy can really change? Zhara looked up at the stars. It already has, she said, because someone, just one human, believed a broken mother still had value. Reed chuckled. Funny. I think the galaxy changed me more. They stood in silence, watching the twin moons rise. Above them, a new banner flew, painted with a single symbol, a child's hand, held in a human's. Epilogue. Across distant worlds, people whispered the story of a human who didn't run, of a mother who didn't break, of a stand taken not with an army, but with heart, and long after they were gone, that story was told again and again. Because heroes didn't always wear medals. Sometimes they just offered a job and changed the stars.